Now, on Thursday night, President Santos called for an emergency meeting of the South American regional bloc UNASUR to discuss the border crisis. And in the last few hours, Santos has been meeting with his cabinet. Now, we have reporters in both Bogota and at the UNASUR headquarters in Ecuador. We're going to go first to Natalia Margarita. She's our correspondent there in the Colombian capital. Natalia, to start there, what's the latest news coming from that cabinet meeting this morning?
Well, it is right behind me in the presidential palace, Cody, where since 9 a.m. local time, President Juan Manuel Santos has been holding an emergency meeting with his ministerial cabinet, but also with Colombian ambassador in Venezuela that, as you said, has been recalled yesterday evening. This meeting has been a closed-door meeting, so shortly, in a couple of minutes, we're expecting a statement telling the press what have been the results of this emergency meeting with his cabinet, his ministerial cabinet, and Ambassador Ricardo Lozano. But following President Nicolás Maduro, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro's statements yesterday, he made it very clear that he's not going to open the border as long as the issue of paramilitarism, but also the issue of smuggling of food, medicines, and gasoline is tackled by Colombian authorities. So we expect that during this meeting that has been underway since 9 a.m. in the morning, very likely President Juan Manuel Santos and his cabinet have been addressing these issues of paramilitarism and smuggling, and also the issue of exchange officers that are operating in the office. And President Nicolás Maduro has called upon the government of Colombia for some regulation of.
I think we just lost Natalia there. Natalia, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, she can still hear us there. Okay, Natalia, you know, we watched that meeting between the two foreign ministers, and it seemed like there were a few agreements, but that it was positive. But now both countries have recalled their ambassadors. So where do relations stand between the two countries now?
Well, there is high concern here, Cody, among social organizations and social movements, because this has been seen as a somehow drastic measure. Also, it is important to remember that since the 22nd of July of 2010, that was the last time where Colombian ambassador to Venezuela was recalled. And that was back in the days during presidential term of Álvaro Uribe Vélez. It is important, and following this recall of ambassador came the diplomatic relations between both countries were broken. But that was a moment, I insist, during Álvaro Uribe term. Then Juan Manuel Santos took office that same year, and one of the first things he did was to reestablish these diplomatic relations with the government in that time of Hugo Chavez. So we haven't seen during the last 5 years such heightening tensions between both countries and the recall of ambassadors. Social movements, political leaders here have called on both sides to keep the relations the diplomatic relations between both countries, especially taking into account the very important role that Venezuela has been playing within the Colombia's peace process that is currently underway in Havana.
Topic here, Venezuela has played an important part in Colombia's peace process with the FARC rebels there. How do the social movements there in Colombia that are involved in supporting that peace process, how are they viewing this dispute now between Colombia and Venezuela, and even the possible consequences that could come as a result of this dispute?
Yeah, I insist. This is one of the most concerning issues among social movements here in Colombia and peace advocates. They have acknowledged the very important role that Venezuela is currently playing, but not just now. Let's remember that Back in the days, Hugo Chavez was very important, play a very important role in exploratory talks between the Colombian government and the FARC. So they have been insisting that the role of Venezuela in the attempts of constructing peace with Colombia's guerrillas have been a very important one. And they have also acknowledged, I insist, of the role that not just the current government of Venezuela, of Nicolás Maduro, but also the previous government of Hugo Chavez Fria played in this direction. So they have been calling since the very beginning, since 1 week ago when the border was closed, that both countries should keep in mind that by no means this role of Venezuela in Colombia's peace process should be damaged or weakened.
There on the street are saying about these relations between Venezuela and Colombia, and also Venezuela's decision to close some of those border crossings, especially in the western state of Táchira. Hello. Natalia, I'm asking you about, I'm wondering what everyday Colombians on the street that you were talking to, what are they saying about the relations between their country and Venezuela, and also Venezuela's decision to close some of the border crossings with Colombia?
Okay, now I hear you, Cody. Well, basically, people have been, again, calling for both sides, Venezuelan authorities and Colombian authorities, to keep on insisting in bilateral dialogue and negotiation as the only way out of this border crisis. Social movements, I want to insist in the point of the peace process, because again, this is what you can hear here in the streets and among peace advocates, that by no means, I insist again, this role of Venezuela within the peace process should be affected by.
All right, Natalia Margarita, it looks like we have the image of you there frozen, but we already had plenty of information from you. Thank you, Natalia Margarita, reporting from Bogota.